Cobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, the site of episode 2 of the Coaches Show Live, where each month we sit down with one of our CSI coaches, administrators, or staff members to talk CSI athletics, current events, and much more. This month we are live from Cobra, a taco joint. My name is Joseph Foreman, the Assistant Sports Information Director at the College of Staten Island, and I'd like to welcome all of our viewers watching our live premiere or on demand via our CSI Sportsnet YouTube channel. Our Associate Athletic Director and Sports Information Director, Dave Pizzuto, is behind the camera today, bringing you all of the sights and sounds throughout today's episode. Before we get underway with today's guest, Nicole Sarcone, women's basketball head coach, I have another guest joining me to my right. It is Tommy Casatelli, co-owner of Cobra and the Kettle Black. Tommy, thanks for joining the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So last month at Kettle Black, the great salmon bowl, one of the healthier options over at Kettle Black. And what do you have on the menu for us this month here at Cobra?
Well, we're always doing the classic Cali fish taco. That's the taco and the dish I'm most proud of in this restaurant because basically the entire restaurant is built around it. I'd spent some time in the Marine Corps in California 1,000 years ago, and I was eating fish tacos. When I came back to Brooklyn, no fish tacos. When we opened Kettle in 2004, we had it on the menu for a minute. Nobody ordered it. Nobody could comprehend the combination of a taco and fish. But now it's like a staple in the city. It's everywhere. Everybody does a fish taco. But we were one of the first, and we're really proud of it. So we're going to feed you some fish tacos today.
Sounds great. The salmon last month was great, so I'm looking forward to more fish this month from Cobra. And of course, part of our ads for Cobra and Kettle Black have featured your events calendar. I know that we had a Halloween event for the kids over the past week or so. What other events do you have coming up at Kettle Black and Cobra?
We love the brunch. There's a brunch on the weekends, 11:30 to 3. Really good. Very fly under the radar. Nobody really thinks of a taco joint as a brunch spot, but we're pretty proud of it. Some great dishes, so I'd say come on down.
And relating back to that kids event that I just referenced, the Halloween event, something that's very important here at Cobra that I've seen stressed and that I've experienced here myself is a family-first atmosphere. And can you speak to that just a little bit and how families have had such a great time here at Cobra along with some great food?
Yeah, well, it starts with the people who own and operate the restaurants. It's all family, and anybody that we've brought in that's not actually blood family they might as well be. So we do a lot of stuff together outside of work, and I think it translates to the employees, front of house and back of house, and then that transfers then to it translates to the customers. We got a lot of customers that one of our bartenders got married about a month ago, and she had a bunch of customers that had jokingly said, "Hey, we're crashing your wedding." She thought they were kind of serious, not serious, and they came and they crashed the wedding, and it was awesome. Everyone had a great time. So that's the kind of place we strive to be, and I'm proud to say that we are that kind of place. All of our places.
Well, I've definitely experienced that both here at Cobra and at Kettle Black. Both you and Rob have been great friends of CSI Sportsnet and CSI Athletics. So I thank you for coming on ahead of our interview with Coach Nicole Sarcone. Tommy, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you.
All right. Tommy Casatelli, co-owner of Cobra. When we come back from break, women's basketball head coach Nicole Sarcone will join me here at Cobra, a taco joint, on episode 2 of the Coaches Show Live. Cobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. Events feature food and drink specials, live music, and the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dine-in order at Cobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
And we're back from Hobra, a taco joint, and I am now joined by women's basketball head coach Nicole Sarcone. Nicole, welcome to the Coaches Show.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
We're excited to have you on, and a lot of our fans possibly don't know as much about you. Some of our other coaches, of course, you came on just last season at the head of our women's basketball program. John Tardy has been head coach of the men's soccer program for quite a while. Some of our viewers and students may have had a better idea of the man behind the men's soccer team. So the mind behind the women's basketball team joins us here today at Hobra. Nicole, again, welcome, and we'll jump right in. So, big part of the story always, how did you become involved in basketball as a player first? Of course, at a young age, did you get involved, or was it something that developed a little bit later?
Really young age. I think I just had the interest, and I went to my parents and told them I was interested in doing the clinic they were holding at St. Teresa's. I think it was like kindergarten, and I actually did the clinic, and then I think it was like first grade, I got cut from the team, and Kyle McAloney's mom, Janice McAloney, put in a good word for me and got me back in there, and ever since then I've been playing. I just love the game, and then from there got into coaching.
Well, Michael Jordan initially didn't make his high school varsity team, so some of the best get cut or don't make the cut on their first attempt. But you mentioned your family getting you involved in basketball. How supportive have they been along the way, not only during your playing career, but when you moved on to coaching? Was that something they responded very well to?
They've been supportive the whole time. I went to SUNY New Paltz, so about a 2-hour ride. They were at every home game they could be at, not so much the other SUNY schools because they were a good 3, 4, 5-hour drive from there. Getting into coaching, they knew it was something I was interested in always. So when I was trying to choose actually a major at New Paltz, my dad had suggested education because, with that you have time to work with kids and then coach after school. So that's the route I went. So they have always known and they've always been supportive of the move.
Education experience, how useful has that been in helping you be a bit more of a patient coach in some ways, or helping you learn to better instruct your student athletes along the way?
I don't know if all my players would say I'm the most patient, but it does help. Learning just different techniques, and I think the biggest thing is learning that not every player or every student learns the same way. So that's the biggest takeaway, because we're always trying to teach and mold anywhere from 12 to 15 athletes, and that's not easy. They respond in different ways to different things. I was an elementary ed major, so it doesn't necessarily correlate to now, but definitely working with a group towards group goals is something that I can correlate from the education field to coaching. So it does help, but I definitely have to work on my patience.
So when you were a young student athlete, whether it be in elementary school or through high school, how coachable would you have considered yourself to be? Were you considered to be the ideal player for a coach, or were you a bit more of a headache at times that butted heads with coaches along the way?
I don't. I have to say, I don't think I was a headache. I've had a few coaches tell me I was pretty coachable. I always say it to my players, to recruits, to anyone that will listen. I was blessed to have a lot of great coaches, probably the best of the best from grammar school through college. So I respected their opinions. I respected their critiques, and I think I was pretty coachable. So we had one blowout one time in practice with my college coach, but he respected it because it was coming out of competition. So I would say I was pretty coachable. I respected the coach's opinions, and I worked hard, and I went from there.
What would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've taken away from a former coach that you've passed along to your team?
Ooh, that's hard. There's definitely a lot. There's something a lot of my coaches, especially when you get to high school and then college, you're learning life lessons through the game that you can use in the classroom, beyond the classroom, in the work field, in life. I try to instill little things like that every day, such as being on time, responding to text messages and emails, little things that, whether you're in the athletics field or not, are going to go a long way. Little things like that. I don't know if there's been a big message, but I've been taught a lot of things that help me in life and help me in coaching, and I try to instill that every day with our girls.
Teams spend a lot of time together, traveling on the road, working out, practicing. What is your biggest off-the-court memory, if you could narrow it down to one or even a few? What are some of the experiences that really stand out to you that didn't have to do with your performance out on the basketball court?
As a player or?
Player or a coach?
There's so many, it's hard to pick on the spot, but playing AAU ball, when I played, there was 2 teams on Staten Island, the Diamonds and the Rebels, and you either made the team or you didn't play.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to have the same group, give or take 1 or 2 every few years, from 9 years old to 16, and we constantly, traveling together, even small places like Florida, Indianapolis, different places, but the time we spent outside of the court are the things you remember, and I still have 2 of my best friends, or 2 of my friends I started playing basketball with from 1st grade. So moments like that, in Notre Dame we traveled to Buffalo and we went to a game up there, a college game, and that was big for us at the time, to watch. We went to, I don't want to say who it was, but just different experiences like that. The team bonding, we try to do team bonding things now as a coach off the court. We did the Amazing Escape Room one year. One year I played Hungry Hungry Hippo Live with the human version with my team. Things like that are fun and get the girls into a different mindset, and I think you need that every now and again.
How exactly does Hungry Hippos Live work?
That was a big YouTube sensation.
Yeah.
I was coaching.
I'm out of the loop, and I'm the social media guy.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. You basically get those scooters that they use in gym classes. I don't even remember them from gym classes because we always just played steal the bacon, but the scooters you scoot on, and you lay on it flat on your stomach. So if you and I are partners, I lay and you hold my legs.
Now I'm starting to picture.
Drive me there, and we got a bunch of the ball pit balls, put them in the middle, and you have to scoop them, bring them back.
Never too old for the ball pit. Definitely not. They're not the cleanest place, but always a fun time.
That on top of a gym floor, definitely not the cleanest, but it's
It
fun.
still beats the ball pit itself. My mother always kept me out of that at Chuck E. Cheese Fun Station when I was a kid. Those are my spots when I was young, so that really dates me a bit.
No, I
love
Chuck E. Cheese.
Great, that's what I like to hear. I've also seen Coach Tibbs playing some interesting games with his men's team during practice. I believe that, I don't know if you've seen this played before, 2 players standing face to face, 1 player looking in one direction, and then the player standing across from which to point in the other direction. Have you seen that?
I have to be honest, he walked into our practice one day and I said to him, how was practice today?
Yeah.
And he was like, it was good, we shadow boxed. And I honestly had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I was picturing this, and he then told us and showed us some videos of it, but I had never seen it before. But his guys looked like they had a lot of fun.
Oh, they certainly did. I was watching them from up on the walkway above the auxiliary gym, and they were definitely interested. They were very into it.
You knew it?
I didn't know the game before I had seen it. We were questioning what was going on, but whatever it was, they certainly loved it. So I'll segue into your first year coaching our women's basketball team, taking over for Tim Shanahan, of course, CUNYAC championship in 2017, and I think I just spoiled one of the trivia questions, but hopefully you'll remember that about 30 or 40 minutes from now when we get to that part of the show. What are some of the takeaways from year one? Of course, coming in a bit close to the start of the season, if I'm not mistaken, right at about maybe a month or 2 away from the start of our 2018-2019 women's basketball season. What are some of your takeaways from year one? Some positives, negatives, or something in between?
I mean, a lot of takeaways, both like you said, positive and negative. You come in expecting one thing. I had a lot of former players when from coaching high school play at the College of Staten Island, Chrissy Pastora being one of them, and Megan McEwen now. So I'd come to games and you see even the CUNY games or non-league games, and you think one thing, but when you get there and you get to this level, the college level, it's a totally different ball game. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it, and I learned that not just preparing your team in practice every day, but the scouting reports and and all of that are huge in any success you want to have in the season. I learned that, a team, take Baruch for example, a team one day, you'll have your way with them, and then another day they'll beat you on a game-winning buzzer shot at the end the next time around. So teams are always preparing, coaches are always working, and you got to stay on your toes. So I think one of the biggest things is staying on our toes and staying prepared. And the only negative take from it was that we knew in losing our 3 seniors that we had to bring in a good group of guards as well, because we didn't have much guard play last year. So just negatives and positives. The biggest positive, and I've said this to Charles before about being in this department, is there's so much support across the board from every staff, and the girls, they work hard every day. We have a lot of work to do, but we'll get there.
Students and fans are always interested in messages to prospective student athletes. What would you say to them? Before we get to that, you mentioned the Baruch game. You defeated them earlier in the regular season, the first meeting. They won on a buzzer beater in the second meeting.
Yes.
What was the message to your team after that game, before playing them, I believe, just a few days later in the opening round of the CUNYAC tournament?
After that game?
After that game, what's your message going into the next matchup? The PG version.
Honestly, it sounds cliche, but it's really any given day, someone's going to step up, and they wanted it more than us, and that was the hardest pill to swallow with that matchup. Is we probably had more talent across the board if you go down the roster, but they wanted it more that day. We didn't execute our game plan, and we knew going in to the playoff game after that game exactly what they did that helped them beat us, and exactly what we needed to work on. So we altered our game plan for the next game, the playoff game, and I think that game, I remember we came out so strong, but the only real difference was the fire we had to start the game, and that's a huge difference.
Certainly can be, and I think I was motioned that the food is getting ready to be brought to our table. So we may have a few moments to take a break from our conversation as they'll take a look down into the kitchen. But before the food comes out, I guess I'll hit you with one more question. I mentioned the message just now to your current team after that Baruch defeat. What would be your message to your team entering this season?
Last year I used the term a lot that we had to make a statement, because when I, accepted the job here, the team had graduated 4 seniors, and those 4 seniors were 68% of the team scoring. So last year I kept telling the girls, we have to make a statement, because we're 5th or 6th in the preseason poll, and we should be 1. We have to make a statement because nobody believes in us, and I think this year again our message is going to be making a statement. We have a target on our backs because we were the top 3 last year, but also because we're making this move to Division II, and there's a lot of expectations, and we want to show any opponent we play with this year, Division III or II, that we mean business, and our move to the next level is there for a reason, and we're going to get there and compete, and there's a reason why we should be there. So basically making a new name for ourselves and making a statement along the way.
And we'll talk a bit more about that move to Division II once our food is out on the table. I think it's close, but maybe not quite yet. I hear some stirring back there, so I guess we will segue forward into the move to Division II. You were there that morning when we found out that we had been accepted and entering the provisional period into Division II. Describe that morning for you. As I know I had a video on my phone of Charles getting the call, our staff surrounding his desk, but what stands out the most to you from that morning when we got the call?
I have to be honest, I was running a few minutes late, so I wasn't there.
You weren't around the table, but you were in the building after. You were a bit late to the conference call, but you were there.
I think it was, we were prepared so well. I say it all the time. Anyone asks about this move by our administration, and we just had a good feeling going in that because of the preparation we put in, it was going to be a yes, and it just made everything real. And you have that celebration feeling for half an hour, a couple hours, but then you do get hit with the reality of this is real life now. We have a lot of work to do, individually within our sports, and we got to make sure we present ourselves in the right way with this move, and we want to get better every day. So it was a lot of excitement, but also a lot of pressure.
So I'll jump to one more topic that has to do with the move to Division II. You hosted a Dolphin Cove night in the lounge, and here's the food. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. There was plenty of food at that event as well. Yes, that's right here.
Steak chimichurri.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Enjoy.
All right, thank you. So our food has finally arrived, and I opened the topic, so we'll finish it off before we get to eating. But that Division II, or part of Division II, being the recruiting, and a big piece of that was the Dolphin Cove night in the Athletic Student Lounge up in the administration offices. You hosted that event, and that's just a part of the recruitment process.
Yeah.
What has been changed as a result of the move to Division II when it comes to recruiting? I know that's something that a lot of students, prospective athletes, and families will ask about, but what's been the biggest change for you?
I don't think it's much of a secret, but before, I took the position here, I think we had a very heavy Staten Island roster, and I think the biggest change that we're looking to make is diversifying that roster. There's great talent on Staten Island, but there's also unbelievable talent off of the island, and that's in the boroughs, that's in Jersey, Long Island, upstate, you name it, Connecticut, Maryland, anywhere. And I think now, with this move, we have the ability to pull in student athletes who can make a difference and compete at the Division II level from all those different areas. The dorms are a huge piece of that, and just being a Division II team gives us interest from athletes that we may have not had it from before. So that's changed, and honestly, we just scrimmaged Queens last weekend, and we see the difference in the level of athleticism than we had seen in the Division III games last year. So that's going to play a huge role into how Kelsey and I recruit right now. We need more size, we need more strength, and we need more athleticism. So,
what's your message to those prospective student athletes who visit?
There is so much room to come here and become an impact player right away. And if you put the work, the red carpet's not going to be rolled out. We always say that, but if you put the work in, we're laying the foundation, laying the groundwork to build a new culture here and a culture of competition, and we want to get to the ECC and be able to compete as soon as we get there. So my message to them would be there's so much opportunity to come into our program and become an impact player and have a program that you can be the center of and kind of take us into that exciting new direction.
What are you looking forward to most for this upcoming year, with it being the first of 3 provisional years in NCAA Division II? Of course, no postseason, but that's one of very few negatives that comes with the move. And the provisional period also is advantageous sometimes to the school that is transitioning. It gives them an opportunity to build for that 4th year when they are then eligible to compete in the postseason. But what is it that you're looking forward to most come this season?
To be honest, our freshmen. I think that obviously that's Kelsey and I's first recruiting class, so we're excited to see what they bring to the table. But I think a lot of our returners who compete every day and love that competition are going to love having these freshmen on their side, and we're excited to see what they do this year. And I'm really excited to get to play against some really good teams this year. I beefed up our non-league competition, and the Division III top 25 poll just came out today, and 2 of our opponents that were on the schedule before we made the move, SUNY New Paltz and Cabrini, are in that top 25. And then we're playing some schools, Malloy and NYIT, from the ECC. So we'll get to see some competition from the ECC and see what that's all about to prepare ourselves. And, we'll get to see kind of, too, where we stand against the top D3 teams.
All right, so Nicole, I'm going to give you a chance to eat and enjoy your food. We'll take a brief break. When we come back, I'll be rejoined by women's basketball head coach Nicole Sarcone. This is episode 2 of the Coaches Show Live from Hobra, a taco joint on Forest Avenue of Staten Island. Nicole Sarcone rejoins me when we come back. Hobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. Events feature food and drink specials, live music, and the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dining order at Hobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
And we're back from Hobra, a taco joint on Staten Island. This is Joe Foreman, joined on the Coaches Show Live, episode 2, by women's basketball head coach Nicole Sarcone. And Nicole, what is it that you ordered today? Is my chicken quesadilla, as always, is great. I got that plugged in as soon as they put it down on the table. I wasn't around for your order being taken. What is it that you have?
I got the steak chimichurri. Typically not something I would get, but last week Kelsey and John Tardy and I came here for lunch, and John got this, and it looked pretty good. So.
Well, I know Dave also has a very appetizing dish off camera. He has a dinosaur taco, from what I've been told. So we'll get a look at that on Dave's plate on your screen right now. But that break gave me an opportunity to down at least a third of my chicken quesadilla. So I was very happy about that. You were able to cut yours up a little bit so that's more easily edible on camera and much more friendly to you while we're trying to have our conversation. So we're back from Hobra, a taco joint on Staten Island. Coach Nicole Sarcone and I joining you on the Coaches Show Live, episode 2. And Nicole, a big part of what we do on CSI Sportsnet is our online stream. And I know that's something that's very important to a lot of families and to athletes. Is that something that helps as a selling point? Because I know that's something our fans enjoy a great deal.
Definitely, and I think more so now than ever with like I just said, our emphasis on recruiting off-island student athletes. You know, this year we have a student from the Bronx and also a student from Queens, and you know their parents love to be at the games. They made that very clear, and we have another one from Brooklyn. And we said, you know, when we were talking to them, every game at home is live streamed, and usually every other game for the most part. So if you ever can't make it, you know, you get the chance to watch your daughter play. So it's a huge selling point. I love it, and you guys do a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. A shameless plug for our CSI Sportsnet online streaming of every game, and our tagline this year has been every game all season long. Catch all of the action live on CSI Sportsnet. So one last shameless plug there. But over the course of the years calling CSI Dolphins events, I've had many moments that have really stood out to me over the years, and one of them was actually turned into a commercial that will be debuting this upcoming season. Megan McEwen's game winner against Centenary last year. One of just a few moments we've selected from the course of last season to turn into one of our ads for the upcoming year. But what are some of your standout moments from year one as a head coach at collegiate level?
You're asking a lot of hard questions today.
Doesn't need to be one, just a few.
No, I know. You know, the game against NYU, which was our first, or one of our first, was a game that stands out because they're always, you know, I played them when I was in college. They're just always a well-prepared, well-coached, fundamentally sound team, and I thought it said a lot about our girls. Our girls had to adapt to a new coach and a new style of play, and they went in there and we beat them, and it wasn't because they were having a down year, it was because we actually had a really great day defensively, and that was something we worked on from day one, and we stressed from day one. So I was really proud of them that game, and it is a game that stands out to me. And our game at Brooklyn, versus Brooklyn, the first time we saw them last season, you know, I came in and I've got Passatoro and Cray on my bench, and you know, talking about all the rivalries and all the things like that, and the hype around that game. And that game, we had to grind out that win. They were a very good team. They probably had more talent than us across the board, and you know, we relied heavily on our post players, Diana and Schmitter, that game to go to work. And like the excitement I saw, I think Diana cried, but the excitement I saw on their faces and just the way they worked to grind out that win in the last couple minutes of that game is something that I think definitely stood out in a game I'll always remember.
Well, you mentioned Diana, a moment that stood out from sports then as well. I believe it was perhaps on the McEwen game-tying shot. May have been another big shot down the stretch of the game. Not exactly sure which matchup it was, but Diana ran onto the court right behind the official. She was in the corner, right beyond the three-point line. Not in the game, but she was on the bench and in celebration ran onto the court. Certainly someone who wears her emotions on her sleeve out there on the court, as I'm sure that you can attest to. And I've had former players speak to me about the rivalry with Brooklyn College, and there's certainly no love lost there. Unfortunately, many of those stories aren't family friendly, so we'll have to keep those to ourselves off camera, but definitely some entertaining ones in there. And do you have any stories of some past rivalries from your playing days where we can share it here on the Coaches Show, but maybe things got a little heated, something humorous or anything along that line?
I mean, humorous? I'm not sure. I mean, rivalries I've had, you mean as a player or a coach? Either way?
Either way.
No, I mean, in grammar school, I don't want to toot our own horn. I already exposed myself by saying I got cut, but I played for St. Teresa's and we were always one of the top teams. Our 8th grade year, which we were expected to win, we had to play a Lady Star at the Sea, one of our rivals, in the championship, the Island Championship at Farrell, and we lost that game. Tibbs brought it up the other day, actually. It's still a dagger to the heart. Nothing humorous about that one. I don't know, in college, one of our biggest rivals was SUNY Oneonta. They were the closest in distance to us in the SUNY, but we struggled every game to beat them, every game. And as a point guard, they were the toughest competition. I hated playing them because they played some sort of matchup zone that I have to admit was extremely hard to figure out and how to beat. And we ended up, my senior year, in playoffs, we played them in the semifinals up at Portland, and it went into a 3 overtime game, and we actually had to grind that one out too. We won it. The game ended like 3 hours later, and it got us to the championship, which we lost. So it's still nothing humorous about that one. Bitter, but rivalry is a part of the game, and it's almost the most fun way to play.
It's definitely the most fun way to play. I can attest to that. It looks like my entree has arrived, so I'll move my quesadillas up, and Dave will come in and get a nice shot of this fish taco. There you go, Dave. Nice look at my entree. Definitely something I'm excited about. A lot of food here in front of me to devour. But going back to the topic of rivalries for just a moment, I can attest to my high school playing days, which did not involve playing on a varsity program. Unfortunately, I was in basketball gym, which was a specialty gym class offered at my high school, and students went at one another in that gym class. If you were in the basketball gym class, you were for real, or at least I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
But some of the best games and times that I had throughout high school were playing in basketball gym and going back and forth with some of my quote-unquote rivals from high school. And I'm sure if somehow they stumble across this on YouTube or find it online, they'll know exactly who they are. But it was a fun time, and definitely the highlight of my playing basketball throughout my lifetime, since I never had the experience of playing on an organized team beyond maybe kindergarten, first grade. So that definitely was some of the most fun I've had playing the game. But moving on from basketball a bit, life beyond the court, what's that like for you? I know that's a very broad question, but some of the details you'd like to share about what goes on when you're not at CSI, though. I will say we do spend quite a bit of time there as a staff.
We do. I mean, basketball always has been a huge part of my life, and coaching now as a career, it still is. Like you said, we're there a lot. We put a lot of work in. It's, nothing special, the everyday Joe Schmo. I have an awesome family, a big family, I have a new nephew. We have a lot of little kids running around, so I spend a lot of time doing things with my family and my friends. I don't have, I was thinking about before this, I was like, hope he doesn't ask me about my hobbies. I don't really have hobbies.
No hobbies.
I gotta find a hobby, I guess.
I find that hard to believe. My hobbies are very well known around the office.
They are.
The online hustle.
That's what made me think about it. I'm like, well, what are my hobbies gonna be?
Well, it's a good thing you cut me off before I got to the question about hobbies. Otherwise, it would have been a bit of a stale conversation. But so the young kids in the family, are they being groomed to play basketball, or is that something that's on the radar?
No, one of them does. I'll go watch the clinics that go on, but not too many. I'm working on it with my nephew. I think one of his first toys was a basketball. So
when I was young, I got started playing in the street in front of my house. Those were some of the best times I had as a kid. But
Same.
When I was younger, I was primarily a baseball player. Growing up, did you play any other sports, or was it basketball from the start?
No, I did dance, tap and jazz. I played soccer, and I played softball and basketball. I played those three in grammar school pretty much through 8th grade, and then in high school, just basketball. I played softball for 2 years, just to play.
Just to play?
Just to play.
When I was playing baseball when I was younger, that was my primary sport, the CY All-Star at age 10, for what that's worth.
Nice.
But I'll never forget playing in the All-Star game. For me, I was hit on the foot with a pitch. I've never been happier to be hit with a baseball in my life. I was able to take first base, say I got on base in the All-Star game. So for me, that was a big moment of relief.
Did you get to run the bases? We had to be pulled out.
Did I get to run the... Well, one of my best baseball stories was taking out the second baseman on a slide at second base. We had played a team that took out our catcher, and I decided that if I had the chance to slide into a base, I was taking the guy out. It wasn't necessarily the same player, but someone had to pay because our catcher took a shot, and I took my shot.
It's a good teammate.
Yeah, I was being a good. I like that. So that's the coach's mentality about that. But ever a moment growing up playing sports where you felt the same way, perhaps, or I don't want to say taking a shot at the other team, but a really back and forth moment that stands out?
I can't say I'm too proud of this. I probably shouldn't promote it to my girls, but my college coach always I have a really good relationship with him, and he always says him and I led the league in technicals in college. But I have to be honest, most of the time I was defending my teammates. Like there was one game we played up at SUNY Plattsburgh. One of my teammates, hope she doesn't watch this, but it's not a very good shout out. But anyway, she scratched her cornea and she had to have surgery, so she always had to wear the sports goggles in college. And some girl called her she stuffed the girl, and the girl was like, they called the foul, and she was like, well, come on, and the girl was like shut up, 4 eyes, and I was like, yo, and I got involved, and then I started toying with her with the basketball, and the ref was like, hey, enough of that. I was like, she's messing with my teammate. I'm not going to let that happen. So I do. I have their backs on the court. I always did. That's probably why I had so many technicals.
All started with a playground insult, 4 eyes.
Listen, that's not right.
That's one of the first ones you learned.
Right. My first hit back was check out the scoreboard. But then after that, when she wouldn't stop, I had to mess with her a little bit.
It begins and ends on the scoreboard. The only number that matters is the final score. And sometimes athletes forget that, but I will say it makes for some entertaining Sportsnet coverage, especially when the officials get involved and things get a bit controversial. Sometimes we like to have a little bit of fun over there at the commentary desk, and I definitely enjoy it quite a bit.
Correct.
I hope people enjoy listening to it.
We do.
Good. I appreciate that. But
I would never. I think last year somebody was like, "Oh, you're gonna hop in on one of these," and I was like, "Oh no. I'll never be as good as you guys. You guys do an awesome job."
Well, I will admit, when I started, I was a bit camera shy. Definitely not something I fully embraced in the beginning. But I spoke about my moment in the CYO Baseball All-Star Game many, many years ago. Did you ever have a moment when you stepped out onto the court where the nerves really set in, more notable than any other moment throughout your career? Where has the big stage, gotten to you a bit, perhaps, in the past, if at all?
I mean, definitely things that stand out are championship games. Like I said, grammar school, we would play the state championship at Dunwoody. In college, going up to Cortland, the higher seed always hosted. Just stepping on those stages for those big games. But I have to be honest, I say it all the time, I'm not really afraid to admit it. I always had that little bit of butterflies, like when the national anthem's going, as soon as you step on the floor, even for tip-off, but as soon as that ball's up, it kind of goes away. But through my college playing career, I still had it every game almost.
Nobody ever likes to admit it, but sometimes
I think it's a good nervous.
The big stage gets to you, and nerves set in from time to time, but sometimes the best performances come out of nerves, so they can be beneficial as well. So one more last question about the previous season before we start moving forward. The season, of course, ended at Brooklyn College last year. What is your message to the team following a defeat like that? That wraps up the season, and of course the season ending with a defeat, but at that point you didn't know you were moving forward into NCAA Division II provisional play following that loss to Brooklyn. But what's your message to the team following a bit of a down moment?
Those are the hardest because I think all coaches are, but I'm a very competitive person, so losing losing in any game is hard, and then to have to relay, a positive message at that point to your team because the season is over. So you want to end on a positive note, but I don't want to be negative. My biggest thing about that game is we were scared. I think we played and came out scared, and that's one of the bigger reasons that we lost that game. And the message is that the hardest part was over. The season was over. That was our. It's do or die at that point. It's playoffs. It's semifinals. So to go out and not play like it's your last game, is upsetting, and you don't want to walk away as a player or a coach with that feeling, So it was kind of like, remember that feeling, remember it, keep the taste of loss in your mouth for next year, thinking we were still going to, be competing in the CUNY conference, and learn from it, because you can't come out in any game, but especially a playoff game, scared and timid and not ready to go, because the other team, they're ready to go. It's going to be their game.
So a big part of moving forward into the Division II provisional period and beyond the end to last year is the student-athlete recruiting process we spoke about before. But one thing I didn't ask you is exactly what it is you're looking for in a prospective student-athlete. Of course, there's the performance on the court, how well they mesh with the team off of the court. What characteristics do you look for in your student-athletes as you begin the recruitment process in Division II?
This is not something that you can see just by one or two evaluations, but in building relationships with recruits and talking to them and getting to know them and their families, we want basketball junkies. We want people who love this game so much, and going through a 5-week preseason or doing film and then a practice isn't work. They want to do it. They're soaking up the information. They're taking the information we give them and applying it. We just want passion, and that's the biggest thing right now for us, and commitment. It's not an easy game. It's a very long season. Coming as a freshman, it's hard. You got to work for and earn your minutes. But we want competitors who want to do that and have the passion for it. It could be a very long and draining season if it's not something as a player you're totally invested in. So biggest thing is that competitive nature and the passion for the game.
Another very big part of the move to Division II is an increased focus on academics. Of course, CSI already focusing on the academic component of being a student athlete, but of course now we've opened the Academic Success Center on the same floor as our administrative offices, open to all of our student athletes, and a big part of Division II's promotional campaign and their points of emphasis is the athletic component, or I should say the academic component of being a student athlete and participating in athletics. So what's your message to your players regarding the academic component of being a student athlete and how important that is to what they do out on the court and off of it?
Yeah, I mean, you're here as a student athlete to get an education. For the majority of our players, anyone who wishes to and works hard enough to play, overseas or at the next level, then we'd always support that. But most of their careers are going to end here, and what comes next is life, and you have to get an education first. And the way, something we always talk about is the way you conduct yourselves in the classroom or when you're studying in study hall. The work you put into your school is going to correlate into the work you put onto the court, and both are going to be extremely rewarding. And just a fact for recruits is that there are standards to meet now that you have to get into our institution, because we're a Division II institution now, and school's got to come first. And as a coach, you want to recruit. We have a player like Megan McEwen who wanted to take a class over because she got an A-. She's close to a 4.0 student. And she, in everything she does, that's how she acts, and that's why she's such a good leader. And we want players like that to come to our program. And make us better all around, not just on the court.
Well, that's certainly admirable. When I was a student at the College of Staten Island, I was a good student, did well. I think I finished with about a 3.76 or so. You have to double check my resume for that one. It's on there somewhere. But an A- for me would have been, see you later, I'm going home very happy. So a bit different of an approach than I took, but definitely a very positive one, especially with the move to Division II and the increased commitment that will require. And we've spoken a lot about CSI Dolphins athletics and CSI Dolphins women's basketball. I want to move into professional sports, or at least semi-professional sports, just a bit. Do you have any favorite professional sports team or a team that you follow religiously? I have three. Unfortunately, those three are the Mets, the Knicks, and the Jets. So it hasn't gone too well for me over the last few years. Do you have a team that you're very loyal to like that?
No.
Collegiate team?
Honestly, a lot of people are like, what, when they hear this, but I don't follow as much professional sports as people would think. Being a coach, people just always assume that you're into every sport and every conference and every division and every league. No, I truly enjoy watching college basketball, both the men's and the women's. On the men's side, gotta be a Duke fan. On the women's side, there's a lot of teams on the women's side that I love to watch. It's a lot of it too is watching their coaches. I get a huge respect for some of the coaches out there. Even a program like Fordham, Steph Gately, and you watch. Kelsey and I like to say we had a drink with Muffet McGraw because when we were recruiting last year, she was sitting at the bar, so we just made our way right there. But programs like that you just watch and you respect because of the way their players conduct themselves and the way they play the game. So I don't have a favorite team. I'm not an enthusiast in that way, but if men's and women's college basketball is what I enjoy watching the most. I am a big fan of beach volleyball in the Olympics. When it's on in the Olympics, I watch it every day.
When the Winter Olympics were on, this had to be several years ago. It wasn't the most recent Winter Olympics, so probably 2 Olympic seasons ago, but I got big into curling. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think I do remember my Verizon Fios app on Xbox only had to select a few channels, and one of them was the USA Network that was airing the Winter Olympics, and for whatever reason, I just became infatuated with curling.
It's hard not to get into the Olympic sports that you probably never would have watched before because it's on and it's almost like forced on you. It's on in a short period of time, but it's so awesome to watch them compete. I used to watch in the Olympics, the gymnastics. It's like the men's and women's beach volleyball. I think those are like the coolest sports that I've watched.
You mentioned learning from college coaches, and I got a chance to talk with you quite a bit at one of our recent women's tennis matches, and you had a dilemma at that point, whether or not to practice on Columbus Day. Did you wind up having that practice?
I hate to admit this, but I did not.
You hate to admit that?
Yeah, I feel soft. It was on the schedule, and it would have been a culture move, cultural move. To let our players know that we're here to put in work, and we're going to use the day. It's a Monday. It's the last day of our preseason, but the next day started their grind for a long season. So I gave them all.
I'm sure they appreciated that.
I think they did
very much. And
I hope they did.
You said a student of the game, a student of collegiate coaches, and I got a chance to roommate with men's basketball head coach TJ Tibbs when we went down to Florida with the women's softball team back in March, and he was watching those games very intently. I was downstairs in the gym, but when I came up, he was watching, I believe it was Zion Williamson and Duke playing in one of the games on television. This was about maybe March 15th or 18th range. So I believe it was a tournament game. I'm very unfamiliar with the collegiate conferences at the Division I level, but it was one of the conference tournament games, a big game, and he was watching it so intently, analyzing it. It was really entertaining to watch.
It's you get into it. I mean, it's hard not to. So many times I find myself just standing, like those last. In college, it can last forever, even if it's like a minute. But I'll be standing there with like the last minute and 30 seconds. I get off my couch or off the chair I'm sitting on. My head is this close to the TV, just because you got to be up there watching it. I somehow feel like it's different.
When I was younger, I hate to admit it, because now if my parents go and watch this, which they almost undoubtedly will, I have to admit that when I was a kid, I was an aspiring commentator when it came to professional sports. I always enjoyed listening to Gary Cohen call Mets games. So I would go on my PlayStation and throw on a headset so it looked like I was talking to someone, and I would do play-by-play for my own MLB The Show games on PlayStation. So I was right up in there calling the action myself, which isn't necessarily the same thing as microanalyzing the games, but I was very into it, and hopefully it served me well to this point. It's got me this far, so I think it worked out for me. But on the topic of Division I athletics, big news coming this week that the NCAA Board of Governors is meeting to discuss the potential for student athletes to profit off their own image, likenesses, and stuff like that. Where do you stand on that?
I've had quite a few discussions / arguments with some of my more passionate friends about this topic. My original stance is they shouldn't get paid because they're already paying for their education. They're part of a bigger picture. They're part of a school. college is where you go to get an education. If you get it paid for because you have that talent, then kudos to you. But the next level is where you should be making your money.
I'm a bit more into law and politics than I'd like to admit, something I got into a while ago, but from my understanding, the U.S. courts have deemed that student athletes are not employees of the schools where they work, so for that reason they're not entitled, but certain states on the state level have made it illegal for them not to allow or to penalize student athletes for profiting. I believe California is the first state to do that. So as of the last article I read on it, California made it illegal for the state to punish athletes for accepting endorsements. That begins in 2023, and the federal government may pass a bill or pass legislation that also does a very similar thing. So it's up to the NCAA to make changes to this by the end, or I should say, the deadline for implementing changes for the coming year. I believe it's the first week of November. So that meeting's happening soon, and definitely something that a lot of people are interested in.
I've been very curious to see the outcome. I mean, when you have the discussion with anyone about it who's passionate about it, you almost see their point of view on, they're using their name and they're making so much money. Why should they not, reap the benefits of that? But I don't know. There's so much I can go back and forth about it. I'm just very curious to see what decision they come to with that.
I would say that perhaps they deserve some sort of compensation on top of their education.
Yeah.
The big issue that I've seen and that was described in some of the articles I read is that if you allow them to accept money for endorsements, it really blurs the line between collegiate and professional sports. Perhaps maybe you set a limit to it, put a cap on it to what they can do. But when it comes to, let's say, a school selling a jersey with the player's name on it, I think that's something where if you're a Division I player, you're bringing all this money in, you're getting your education, but merchandise sales are so huge.
Yep.
They don't need to allow necessarily endorsements like signing with Nike and things like that, but allowing them to profit maybe off of the sale of their jersey, because right now they do sell jerseys of collegiate players. A lot of the time they leave the names off, but I know, as you mentioned, one of my side hobbies, online selling that type of merchandise, and those jerseys fetch a lot of money in some cases, depending on the brand. And I think Jordan Brand produces a lot of those collegiate jerseys. I think they have the majority of the contracts right now for that. So I'm very well versed on that topic anyway when it comes to the jerseys.
I would be, honestly, in talking about it, I'd be curious to see what the players feel about that. Those level players, like a Zion, whose jersey made the school and the team that much money. Some of them I feel like are just going to be, I'm all about the school, and I think some might want that money.
I think when you open the door to allow student athletes to accept every variety of endorsement that they're capable of achieving, and for many of them, it's very high-level endorsements, whether it be a shoe deal with Nike or Jordan Brand, commercial deal with Gatorade, things like that. It becomes more of a business endeavor than it does a student athletic endeavor at that point. And we've seen the NBA trending in that direction now as well. Players looking to move into big markets to gain endorsements. We've seen LeBron James recently sign with the LA Lakers prior to the start of last season. Unfortunately, players don't take their talents to New York for that market, well, at least not to the Knicks. Unfortunately for me as a Knicks fan, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving went to the Brooklyn Nets. Still salty about that.
I remember when that happened. I remember how salty you were.
I had a lot of people making fun of me. I got a lot of somewhat derogatory text messages with "I told you so" and "you're doomed forever." And I was ready to buy additional season tickets. The value of those took a bit of a hit as a result of those signings, so it didn't work out too well for me. But I hate to say it, but nothing but the best for the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets, terrible.
That took a lot.
Yeah, it did. So I did my good deed for the day, put my own personal views aside for the sake of New York State as a whole. So I'll try to do that. So I think it's just about time for dessert. Nicole and I will take a break. When we come back, our Grill the Guest segment here from Hobra, a taco joint on Staten Island. This is the Coaches Show Live, exclusively on CSI Sportsnet. My guest, women's basketball head coach Nicole Sarcone, rejoins me when we come back. Hobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. events feature food and drink specials, live music, and the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dining order at Hobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends, live sports and watch parties, to Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
And we're back from Hobra. This is Joe Foreman, joined by women's basketball coach Nicole Sarcone. This is our Grill the Guest segment, where we will first ask Nicole a few questions about the history of CSI women's basketball, each question getting a little bit more challenging than the one before it. After that, we'll take the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, asking some tough this or that questions and some more personal questions when it comes to your background. So first, we have our 5 trivia questions for CSI women's basketball. And the first one, as I said, I spoiled it. Hopefully you were paying attention. CSI has won 7 CUNYAC championships in their history. In what year did they win their most recent championship?
2017.
All right, so you're 1 for 1, Nicole. Last season, your team allowed 55.9 points per game and had a scoring margin of plus 10. In one game late last season against a CUNYAC opponent, you allowed only a single point in the first quarter of a game. Do you remember who your opponent was in that game?
Are you sure about that? A single point.
A single point in the opening quarter of a game.
I don't want to guess. I feel like that's mean.
It was a late season game.
Good. Late season. Lehman?
You're correct.
Hey.
2 for 2. All right, question number 3. Your current assistant coach, Christina Passatero, became CSI's all-time leading scorer in 2018. Whose career scoring record did she break? It's up on a board right outside the gym. You walk past it every day.
I know this isn't it, but it's the only... Not Jacqueline Rock. Jacqueline Rock?
It's Jacqueline Rock. 3 for 3. Okay, you took over for Tim Shanahan as the women's basketball head coach, but who is CSI's all-time winningest coach with 253 wins?
This would be a shot in the dark. CSI women's basketball.
Women's basketball.
Marguerite?
That is correct. 4 for 4. Dave had no confidence in you when we brought up these questions, so I just threw him straight under the bus. But I knew that'd get a laugh out of you at the very least, so it was worth it. Sorry, Dave. Though I did want to come back from break introducing myself as the great Joe Foreman. I got a phone call during the break, and they asked for the great Joe Foreman. It was my father calling, but he saw it on my Facebook wall and thought it was funny, so I missed that opportunity, unfortunately. All right, that's passed by, but I had to plug it. I plugged it. Okay, last question. CSI sponsored 4-year sports beginning in 1976, but women's basketball was not introduced until a bit further down the line as a dessert is introduced to the table. Dave gets a nice look at that. So we'll get to work on that in just a few moments. But as I said, CSI began sponsoring 4-year sports in 1976. Women's basketball was not introduced until further down the road. In what year did CSI begin their women's basketball program?
1981?
That's correct.
You're lying.
I'm completely serious. That's correct.
I'm a good guesser.
So either you have very good eyesight and were able to see across the table and down
I wear glasses.
onto the trivia sheet. All right, so she didn't see it. 5 for 5, Nicole. Congratulations. Great job. Dave, next time have some more confidence. Okay, so a little bit about you now. not very pointed questions, but we'll learn a little bit more about you that we didn't cover during the earlier portion of our show. Favorite pregame meal?
I don't eat before games.
Don't eat before games. I should have put that as a second option. I'm always eating, so I couldn't even choose.
As a player, I would eat like a Nature Valley bar like 6 hours before a game.
Nature Valley peanut butter dark chocolate XL protein bars. My favorite. Every morning I have one. Childhood dream job?
I don't think I had one. I don't think I had one.
Didn't have one. Oh, then I'll give you my answer. For me, first, it was professional athlete, and then when I realized that I didn't have those gifts, it was professional commentator, play-by-play for the New York Mets.
Not for CSI.
CSI wasn't on the radar when I was 5 years old, unfortunately. Okay, favorite sport other than basketball?
To play, to watch, doesn't matter.
Can be anything. You can specify if you want, if you have one that's the clear-cut favorite.
To watch, beach volleyball.
Beach volleyball. One song that must be on your warm-up playlist.
Oh my god, I would get ripped on for this. I listen to the oldest song.
I'll give a comical answer after. You give me yours, I'll give you mine.
I'm trying to think of one I used to listen to all the time. I don't know, but like, I'll listen to like summer hits from the 90s, so if like the Macarena came on, like I'd listen to it.
In the warm-up playlist?
That's what people say to me all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I can't run to new stuff.
Yeah, well, for mine, it's the new Batman theme from Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Alright, I don't even know what that is.
I'm sure most of our viewers don't either, but that's my workout jam. Okay, one word or phrase you would use to describe yourself. Really putting you on the spot?
Yeah.
Well, the next one's going to be a bit tougher, so
Word
or maybe not.
Word or phrase.
Don't know. All right, then I guess I'll give you mine. All day hustle.
Really?
Yeah, it's The Rock's new
I can
slogan.
give-
I love it.
I can give you one. It would be OCD.
OCD.
Like everything has to be in order all the time.
I understand that. And all day hustle is why I can
Same
eat
thing.
treats like this. Working. Good. All right. One word or phrase your team would use to describe you.
God. Sarcastic?
Okay. Most memorable Halloween costume you've ever worn.
I heard that question on the radio. Was it radio?
I can promise you, I came up with it myself.
4 days ago on the radio. Honestly, I don't think any of mine, thanks Mom, were good when I was young, but in college a few of us were Trouble, the game. I think that's
Childhood
a good
classic of mine. I remember when I was in grade school, we played Trouble, and there were only 4 spots.
Yeah.
And we had a 5th player who wanted in, come along.
So?
Not enough spots.
No.
Flipped the table and upended the game.
Nice.
Yeah, that got us all sent to the principal's office. So I don't know why I was there. I didn't flip
I
the
don't
table.
know. I don't know.
But Halloween costume story for me when I was a kid, I wore one of the Scream costumes that had the blood inside of the mask.
Yeah.
And it had the heart that you squeeze and it pumps the blood up into your face. Well, I was afraid that the red liquid would leak through the mask and onto my face. So I had my parents drain the entire thing before I would wear it because those costumes were expensive and I ended up not using the blood effect, so it was a bit of a disappointment.
That is.
All right, the last piece of our Grill the Guest segment is this or that. I did ask you one of these questions already, so you know it's coming. It's
Okay.
all the way down at the end.
Got it.
But I need to hear how you'll answer on camera. But we'll start off with some easy ones. Your team's uniforms, the white or the black uniforms?
White.
Okay. Day game or night game?
Night.
Zone defense, man to man.
Man.
Get more done in the morning or at night?
Morning.
More challenging, your first year coaching or your first year playing at the college level?
Coaching.
A great post game or great outside shooting?
Shooting.
Okay, this one I've asked you already, but I need to hear how it plays out on camera. 2-on-2, you and Kelsey, me and Dave. Who do you got?
I gotta go with me and Kelsey.
Same
Or
answer you
Kelsey.
gave me last time.
That would be like, we'd be struggling in the height department because
Yeah.
of me, but I got Kelsey on my team. I gotta say we're gonna win. Sorry.
Kelsey has taken it to us. Kelsey has taken it to us in the mornings before. I think I've gotten maybe a win in there at some point, but
Did she injure you?
she did not injure me though. There was one play, I had it on film. A friend of mine was curious to see what I do at CSI. And I said, this is what we do. So I live streamed on Twitch us playing basketball in the gym. So Kelsey's down in the low post, I'm playing defense. She steps on my foot as she's making a post move. I fall down. Sure as anything, it looked like my ankles were broken. It was very bad, a bad look for me on camera. It looked bad.
She didn't help you up.
She scored. And then gave me the stare down as she walked up. No, that didn't happen, but definitely would have made for a good scene in the stream, but that didn't happen. So fortunately, my shame was limited to just appearing as if my ankles were broken. I can promise they were not.
Yeah, pain took a backseat to embarrassment.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. Halloween 4 days ago. Trick or treat.
Treat.
Well, I have to say, I was hoping you'd say trick. I don't know if this is coming over the mic or not, but I needed to crowbar this into the show. So here it is. One of my more recent Halloween costumes, a high school costume. This is the Joker bank robbery mask from The Dark Knight, and I had to find an excuse to wear it. Pulling it off?
I appreciate you finding an excuse to wear that. Yeah,
Pulling it off? Yes or no?
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. That's what I like to hear. And that is all from Hobra this afternoon. I think I should take the mask off and start over. That is all from Hobra here this afternoon. This is the Coaches Show Live exclusively on CSI Sportsnet, our second episode. Head coach of women's basketball, Nicole Sarcone, thank you for joining us. I had a great time. Unfortunately, you didn't have any of the ice cream, so we'll wrap with that. I had one, but this is how we'll sign off. A great dessert, a great meal here at Hobra. I really enjoyed the fish taco and my chicken quesadilla. The chicken quesadilla is a staple for me always. I'm sure you enjoyed your meal as well.
Steak chimichurri was awesome.
You wolfed it down as soon as we went off camera. A bit camera shy when it came to the eating. I certainly was not. I was digging in on camera, but Nicole finished off her meal as well off camera. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us. If you're tuning into our live premiere, it is Monday, and every month we will be premiering on Monday at 12 p.m. Nicole, one more?
Yep.
All right.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Have a good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. You can catch all of our Coaches Show episodes on demand exclusively on our CSI Sportsnet YouTube channel. And until next month, thanks for watching.